geography and cultural and historical sectors that will lead to our recommendations for the client and whether or not Thailand or Spain are satisfactory markets to enter into the automotive business. It is imperative to consider the political systems of each country and how that might impact our client's decision to enter the automotive business in that country. A part of strategic management is ensuring that the country you are entering into is politically stable. The first country that we will look at is Spain. Spain is a democratic country where free and fair elections are held. It is considered a politically stable country. However, the area of Catalonia has long been seeking independence from Spain, and there have been clashes between governments. The people of Catalonia voted in an independence referendum in 2017, but it has been denied by the Spanish government and ignored by a majority of the world. On the other hand, we have Thailand. In 2019, they moved away from the military dictatorship they had been in for 5 years. They now have a semi-elected government that is still dominated by the military. Unfortunately, Thailand is not considered a politically stable country. In 2020, the government introduced restrictions on political and other freedoms for their citizens. This has led to an uprising of democracy protests.
While both Spain and Thailand are governed by a civil law legal system in comparison to Australia being a common law legal system, it is not the differences in which these countries govern their laws that pose difficulties. It's, however, the differing automotive standards and regulations that are required by the relevant legal authorities in Spain and Thailand. Due to Spain being a member of the European Union, all automotive standards must meet the EU automotive and emission standards, and such approval can only be granted by the Spanish Ministry of Energy, Tourism and Digital Agenda, as authorized by the Spanish Royal Decree 2822-1988. Furthermore, in Thailand, the Pollution Control Department, PCD, requires all vehicle manufacturers to meet the Thai automotive and emission standards based off the European standards. The European Union and Japan have the strictest fuel economy and greenhouse gas emission standards in the world, and they have set the benchmark with all nations based on their own standards of predominantly the EU, with the most recent standard being the EU6. Currently, the Australian automotive standard is ADR 79, which is based on the EU5 standards. In Thailand, the minimum automotive standard required is EU4, and for vehicles under the Eco-Car program, EU5 is required. However, due to Spain being within the European Union, the automotive standard required is the most recent and highest level, EU6. Consequently, entering the Spanish automobile market will be more difficult, as first, all Australian vehicles would have to be modified to meet the EU6 emission standards.
When comparing the economies of both Spain and Thailand, there are some really strong differences. In terms of gross domestic product per capita, Thailand is currently sitting at $6,450 USD and Spain is at $27,005 USD. Although Spain's is significantly higher, since 2000 Spain has had greater variation in GDP, while Thailand has been at a steady increase over the past 20 years despite volatility in their political system. The pandemic significantly affected both Spain and Thailand's GDP, however both are on track to recover by the end of 2021. When looking at employment in both countries in 2020, Spain has an unemployment rate of 15% and Thailand's is sitting at 1.5%. Although Thailand's unemployment rate is considerably lower, the prerequisite to be unemployed as defined by the International Labour Organization is to be without work or work less than 1 hour per week and does not include workers that have given up seeking work. In turn, despite the low unemployment rate, there is still a vast amount of the population that would be interested in working a consistent job. Wages in Thailand and Spain greatly differ, with the minimum wage in Spain per hour almost being equivalent in Australian dollars to the minimum wage per day in Thailand. In Spain, the minimum wage is €1,050 per month, which is equivalent to approximately $10 Australian per hour. Whereas in Thailand, the minimum daily wage is 336 Thai baht, which converts to $1.72 Australian per day. It's clear in assessing both of these economies that Thailand is gradually becoming an emerging market, is consistently growing as shown in the last 20 years, and would incorporate significantly lower costs in wages.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I will be presenting the technology and geographical comparison between Spain and Thailand concerning the automobile manufacturing industry. Firstly, I would like to begin with highlighting the fact that Thailand has a 2% larger landmass than Spain, with 22.69 million more workers in their workforce in comparison to Spain. This does mean that Thailand can manufacture at a cheaper cost, which maintains its competitive advantage. Additionally, Thailand is perfectly situated with great access to Asia, Africa, Middle East, and the USA, while Spain is located to export to Europe. Thus, Thailand has greater access to global markets with a larger workforce and greater market share. Therefore, it is more suitable for business than in Spain. In comparing the technology and infrastructure of Spain and Thailand, it is clear that Spain has a significantly better infrastructure with high levels of government spending on roads, railways, buses, and airports. Spain also has a higher GDP per capita than Thailand with greater expenditure. Also, Spain is ranked higher in technology development, especially within the automobile manufacturing industry. However, Thailand remains to progress rapidly in infrastructure and global competitiveness. Additionally, Thailand is ranked 31st globally for innovation within the automobile, tourism, and software industry. Thus, Thailand remains to be a key global manufacturer for high-tech technology in automotive industry, unlike Spain, which keeps its competitiveness through manufacturing high volumes of vehicles. Thus, Thailand remains to be more suitable for business due to their cheap labour and manufacturing costs, as well as their geographical location. Therefore, market entry could be more successful in Thailand.
With reference to the Gerd-Hofstede comparison model of cultural dimensions, inferences can be drawn when comparing Spain and Thailand. Australia has slight similarities across most cultural dimensions. However, a crucial outlier can be seen within the sense of individualism within Spain and Thailand, most notably in Thailand having a 70-point difference to Australia's ranking of 90. While in Spain, relationship building and group belonging is important, they are predominantly individualistic in nature. Whereas in Thailand, relationship building and loyalty established through informal conversations and gift-giving is very crucial. Co-aligning with the Hofstede ranking of 20 for individualism, therefore making Thailand a highly collectivist society with great importance on social group interaction in exchange for care for each other and loyalty.
After analysing the political and legal systems, the economies, technology and infrastructure, geography and cultures of Thailand and Spain, it is clear that both are very different to one another. They both possess traits that are appealing in terms of investment, however also present factors that may cause implications or limit the profitability of the venture. Spain presents itself with political stability, large unemployed workforce, and high levels of infrastructure and technology that can be utilised. However, high levels of emissions regulations must be adhered to, as well as significantly high labour costs. On the other hand, Thailand is an emerging market with extremely low labour costs, lower base emission regulations, and is a key global manufacturer for cutting-edge technology in the automotive industry at the cost of political instability within the region. It is our recommendation that an overseas automotive venture should take place in Thailand, as the significantly lower costs, consistent increase in GDP, less emissions regulations, and current technology available in the region would offset the added political risk.